kings and kingdoms will bow down. And every chain will break. His broken hearts declare his praise. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, so open up the gate, make way before the King of Kings. Our God who comes to save, He's here to set the captive free. But who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Yes, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Yes, who can stop the Lord Almighty? Oh, who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sin of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Yes, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Yes, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Oh, I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I've heard the tender whisper of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Oh, and I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am, because you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us, because you are perfect in all of your ways. Yes, you're perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. It's love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think, as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Help me sing that one more time. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am, because you are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways to us. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. Amen. Thank you for that scene.
1 Thessalonians chapter number 2. We'll look and see what the Lord has for us today. And as we are thinking about fathers, there's an awesome little thought in here that Paul gives to this great church. And it's really good how the Lord kind of puts it together, because Paul was really a spiritual father to these folks. And he really relates a lot about how he loves and cares for the church at Thessalonica, and how we ought to, as fathers, love and nurture our children as well. So 1 Thessalonians, man, it's right there. Man, all the T's are together in the New Testament. So Timothy, Titus, and Thessalonians, they're all right bundled. Hey, God made it good for us when he put it all together. If you can find something that starts with a T, just keep looking, and it's right there, okay? That's how I always taught myself to find it. 1 Thessalonians chapter 2. And we'll really look at these verses, maybe 8 through 12. We might jump around just a little bit. But let me just read verse number 11 for you guys. It says this: as you know how we exhort and comfort and charged every one of you, as a father does his children, that you would walk worthy of God, who has called you unto his kingdom and glory. So here it is. He references Father right there. References Father right there. And if you go back to verse 8, which we will, and we'll look at, we're going to see how he also talks about all kinds of great, great things. But, you know, today is Father's Day, right? I mean, listen, when I woke up this morning, well, I don't know why I didn't sleep really good last night, but I didn't, so I shouldn't say it when I woke up, because I don't even think I ever went to sleep. I mean, I laid there. I know that fan went around in circles about 300 times, but when I got out of bed this morning, I think it was like 4 o'clock, I was just tired of laying there, and I already had 2 or 3 texts, Happy Father's Day, so I knew right then it was Father's Day. I knew when my little girl, Hembry, and it was just like stair steps. Maverick and Harlow and Holland come running in with my little card. I knew it was Father. A day that fathers are to be recognized, right? We are to be recognized for some forms of fashion. Tell us they love it. Cook us our favorite meal, something, right? So we know that, but I want to look from this perspective of a biblical father and what God is calling you and I as believers of Jesus and Christians, as men of God, have children, what we ought to do. No matter if our children are like mine, still very, very small, or maybe yours are already at the house and you might have grandkids or great-grandkids, but nonetheless, you still are a father. See, am I thinking, and I look at all sorts of things on the news and statistics just like you do, you know, family life in America is different than it's ever been, right? The family is being challenged by the devil himself. We see that everywhere we turn, on television. We see that in society. We see it with the things that are going on. And why is that? Because the devil knows if he can destroy the family, he can destroy the country. And he always wants to start with the leader of the house, right? Same thing in a church. God wants to go, the devil wants to go after the pastor because he's the leader. Or in a family, wants to go after the father. So how can we catch that before the curve? How can we as fathers take care of that? See, first you got to recognize the problem before you can solve a problem. You ever realize that? You can't solve a problem you don't know is there, guys. Listen, guys, I do got a college education, but that is not that deep, guys. You got to find it before you can solve it. You got to see it before you can solve it. Homes are falling apart, and you say, man, I'm doing my job as a father. And I want to dig deep in the scriptures today and say, am I? Are you? Ask yourself, am I doing what it takes to do? Because I know that us as fathers, the kids watch us. I can say this, for example, with my son, Maverick. My daughters do it as well. But Maverick will follow me around, right? I like to cut the grass, guys. It gives me some peace and quiet, right? And I was out there cutting the grass, and Maverick is running around doing his thing with his cars. And sometimes I'll look over there, and he'll be in this little mud pit, and he's driving his little trucks around. And then sometimes he's not there. He's over in the woods. Or you'll see him by a tree, and you know what he's doing when he's by the tree, guys. And then he'll run back over here. That's just how he's all boy. And I couldn't see him I was looking everywhere, and I'm just I can't see him. And then all of a sudden, something caught my eye. He was behind me, and I listen, guys. I got a push mower, so I'm just it's self-propelled. Don't worry. I'm just pushing, and I'm looking around, and then there he is. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm following you." I said, "What do you mean you're following me?" He said, "Wherever you go, I'm going." I said, "Oh, really?" And so I kind of played around for a minute to see if I took the long route around. And he's following me every step. I turned the mower off, and I got to have a little Gatorade, guys. Got to get a little lemon lime Gatorade. Put it in the freezer for a little while, get it a little crunchy with the ice. Oh, man, it's really, really good. I'd take one right now if I had one. And he said, "Dad, put mine in the freezer. I'll take lemon lime too." "Why?" "I'm following you, Dad." So he's drinking his Gatorade. I get me some sunflower seeds, barbecue, and he gets him some barbecue sunflower seeds. And it's like a stepping thing with him. And I said, "Man, you really follow me." And I started really thinking about that, guys. Our kids, dads, follow us, and they do what we do. Now listen, that's cool when I'm cutting the grass and eating sunflower seeds and drinking lemon lime Gatorade, right? But it ain't cool if I'm doing stuff that I ain't ought to be doing, right? Well, listen, guys, in life sometimes we do things that we shouldn't do. when that car pulls out in front of you, when mama makes you mad, when the times of stress arise so big. We do those things that we ain't proud of, that we don't put on Facebook, that we don't tell the world, that I ain't going to preach about today. But we do those things, and the same kid that saw you cut the grass, eat the sunflower seeds, and drink the Gatorade, that same son or daughter is going to watch and react like you have acted. I started really thinking about that, and I started thinking, do we really take in full understanding how we act all the time? Not just in certain moments, because in this verse, I think it's verse number 9, Paul even talks about how the people at this church are his witnesses. He's more or less telling them what he is, and he says, you can even ask them. And I started really thinking about that. Listen, it's cool when they follow me when I'm doing something awesome or I'm accomplishing something. But what about in my days when I'm dark and I'm down and I don't act like I ought to act because I'm human just like you are? And I start thinking about those moments. You guys, we have to safeguard ourselves, dads. We have to safeguard ourselves. Listen, I want to give you some gifts today. And these gifts I want you to give to your kids. See, on Father's Day, we want to get a gift. But hey, it's better to give than receive. So we're going to give some gifts away to our kids, not just one day a year, but every day. Let me show you the first thing. First thing we see, verse number 8, it shows this, right? The expression of love from a godly father. The expression of love from a father. And we see it right there in verse number 8. Look with me in verse number 8. What does it say? It says, so being affectionately desirous of you, we were willing to have imparted unto you not the gospel of God only, but also our own souls, because you were dear unto us. What is old Paul talking about here? The phrases that he uses right there in verse number 8 is affectionately desirous. That word is really only used in very, very few places. Really almost never else in the New Testament is those two words in their meaning used. And it really comes from the idea of the love that a parent gives a brand new baby, right? There ain't nothing like, whether it's yours or your friends, right? That infant that you get to hold, right? And I'm going to have my 5th one in just a few days, guys, and I'm going to get to hold him, okay? And please let me have a boy. All right? I'm going to have him, and if it's a girl, if I don't post nothing, it was a girl. I'm just going to be honest with you, okay? But I'm just being truthful, okay? As I hold him and I look at him, that affection, what does verse number 8 say? It says, affection desires. That love is the same love that we as parents give. Or a mother is giving that infant as their nurse. There's a connection, a bond right there. He uses those, and Paul is saying that to the church. He's saying that my love for you as your spiritual father is so affectionate, is so desirous. It's as this the same connection as you as a parent loving a newborn baby. Man, in the ancient Roman times, they would use this in terms of when baby was born. And really, Paul is saying, guys, I love y'all so much. I love you as if you're a brand new baby. And really, they are. This church, this is a new church, guys. They really were an infant. They were nursing, okay? They had some formula out, and they were eating it because they were so immature and a baby. And Paul's saying, just like you have a child and you love that child, I, as your spiritual father, love you as the church just like that, which means that you and I as fathers should love our children, whether they're biological, whether they're step. All right, listen, I fathered my nephew. I looked at him as my own son, right? And he looked to me as a father figure. Look to my dad. So you don't have to have the biological kid. Guys, you know that I volunteer as a chaplain at the high school. I sometimes have to be the father figure for them boys because they don't have a father figure. And the dad may be home. He just ain't being a dad like he ought to be. So we have to love on them. It's the same concept, guys, the same concept. Paul gives some characteristics, though. 3 characteristics in this expression. The first one is a precious love. The first characteristic that he gives us is a precious love. It's a precious love as a little infant, okay? Even when the child grows up, the precious love ought to still be there, okay? Even as the child grows. So listen, this isn't something that only when they little you can kiss them, okay? I told Hembry, you better not ever get too old for me to give you a kiss. And she says, okay, Daddy, I'm too old now. No, you ain't, okay? You're 8, right? But it's that precious love. I was reading a story on the internet, and you don't get to believe everything on the internet, okay? So this is a good story, though, all right? It was talking about a man, was watching television with his daughter, 16-year-old daughter. They were watching television, a television program together. And I don't want to make you cry, but I'm just going to just tell you what the story said. And so he's sitting there, and he's flipping the channels, and he's watching television. And he looks over there at his daughter, and he's remembering the times that she used to jump in his lap and cuddle up with him. And she was remembering the times that he was able to push her on the swing. And he was remembering the times that he would also, hold her hand, and she would look up to him as he's the hero. And he's sitting there looking at his daughter while they're watching whatever's on Netflix, okay? And they're watching it. And at the same time, he's wondering what he said, I just want to tell her I love her. I just want to give her a hug like I used to. I just want to give her a kiss like I used to on the cheek. And he's sitting there saying, no, I better not. She may think I'm being silly. She may not want to have that mushy parent silly love. Like she's too cool to have a hug or a kiss. And then the story goes on to say that the daughter was sitting on the other side of that couch. She was thinking, wonder why my dad don't give me a hug any longer. Wonder why my dad doesn't put his arm around me and say, I'm proud of you. Wonder why my dad doesn't give me a kiss on the cheek and say to me how beautiful I am like he did when I was 4 years old. And see, guys, what I'm trying to tell you is never stop loving on your kids. Even when you think they're too cool to hear it, they need to hear, I'm proud of you. They need to hear, I love you. They need to hear, hey, you're doing awesome. You need to hear how pretty they are, guys. Because, listen, man, if we don't tell our kids that, then some punk out there is going to tell them that, and they're going to believe them. And what happens then? They're going to love him more than they love you, guys. And I told my daughters, hey, I want you to know that I'm the first man that ever loved you is me. And I want you to make sure that you find some guy that's worth 2 cents, guys. You got to show them that now. And what I mean by that is this. Just because your kid ain't ate like mine don't mean you can't love them like they ought to be loved. Because they just want it just as bad. You just don't realize they want it as bad. Never stop loving your children. That precious love doesn't just fit when they're infants. Doesn't just fit when they're 8. It fits when they're 18 or 38 or 58. Your kids need to know that you love them. So not only is it a precious love, it's a protective love. It's a protective love. Paul says it right there in these verses. In verse number 8, he talks about how it impaired you, not just the gospel only, but our own souls. He's saying, listen, it's a protective love. It's more than just this whole thing. It's you as an individual. He says our own self. Verse number 9 goes on to say that he labored day and he labored night. He's saying it's a protective love. Paul points at this as an individual thing. And he really uses the illustration of the Father's love to show them the kind of love that he should have towards the church. We got to compare these two things, guys. He's talking about the church, but you and I can use it as an example of an actual child. It's so good. See, the fatherly love that Paul was showing and telling was something that you and I can do the exact same thing. It was a protective love. And I begin to think about how we protect our children. And listen, I can't help but think about an infant because I'm about to have one, right? Or my wife's about to have one, okay? I'll watch. I'll hold her hand. I'll make sure she breathes good, and I'll get her some water, okay? But listen, hey, it doesn't look like it hurts. I mean, she's sitting there. She said, leave me alone. Leave me do this. I said, you got an epidural. You're okay, And she, it's a protective love because you see this precious child. And you're holding this baby that's helpless. I mean, they can't even hold their head up. You remember, 5th kid is different than 1st kid. 1st kid, I thought I was going to put a neck brace on it to pick it up. You know what I'm saying? 1st kid, I just pick it up by the arm and give it a bath, right? But seriously, when you pick up that child, man, that head flops around, and what do you think? Thing don't break. I think the head's going to fall off or something, because this doesn't have the muscles to hold up. So as a dad, I'll put my hand under that neck and pick it up like this. It's a protective love. Paul's saying that when he uses the illustration of that loving father to a baby, he's saying, I'm holding you, church. I'm protecting you. Guys, as dads, we should hold our children, no matter if they're a week old like I'm about to have or 18 or older, guys. We have to protect our kids. That doesn't mean put them a bubble around them so they don't ever feel or see anything. No, what it means is that we protect them with love. We protect them so that they don't let the world capture them. We teach them certain things. It means that we protect them with prayers. Listen, I try to pray for my kids every night. But listen, my prayers for my kids ain't just for the 5 minutes when they go to bed, right? I do pray for them together. Okay? But I'm talking about as an individual, we have to pray for our children. Say, preacher, we're in church on Sunday morning. Of course we know to pray for our children. Let me just stop where you're at right now. You think of the last time you prayed specifically for your child. See, sometimes we get stuck in the rat race of life. And we get caught up with our own needs and our own wants, right? And we get caught up, and we may go a day without. Listen, guys, we've got to be, it doesn't matter if your kids are little or big. Your kids may have kids that have grandkids. I mean, guys, listen, there's a lot of variation of ages in here. It doesn't matter how old. We must pray. We must pray for those kids. It's a protective love. It's a precious love, but it's also a patterned love. Another characteristic is a pattern love. A father must pattern his love after that of Jesus. He must pattern his love after that of Jesus. Children learn how to love from their parents, but they also learn how to hate. Hear me out now. Listen, they're going to love what you love. They're going to hate what you hate. So we got to be careful what they hear and also what they see, right? Listen, guys, you can never be too, home is when you're the most comfortable, right? You go knock on somebody's door, they're going to come to the door with no shoes on. Their clothes don't match. I mean, listen, it's all kinds of messed up, right? Why? Because you're comfortable. You've let your guard down. You got your house clothes on, your house pants. They got a bleach stain on them and a hole in them, right? And they probably haven't been washed in 2 weeks, okay? Why? Because it's your house clothes and you're comfortable. You got your slippers on, right? That's when you're the most comfortable. We wasn't expecting company. You let your guard down. You let things happen. You let things slip out. Listen, guys, you have to pattern your love after Jesus. And as men, if we pattern our love after Jesus, statistically, our wife will pattern their love after Jesus, and then therefore our children will pattern their love after Jesus. They're going to love what you love, and they're going to hate what you hate. I mean, listen, I'll use my kids as an example. My kids already love what I listen. Maverick cannot wait till he gets a Mustang and a Ford F-150. Why? Because that's what Daddy likes, right? Listen, it's just the way it is because they model, they pattern. If I see a car down the road that I don't like, I'll say I don't like it. The next thing you know, Maverick says, I don't like them things either, Dad. Why? It's because they pattern after us. And the reality is that I should pattern my love after Jesus. They should pattern their love after Jesus. It'll happen. It'll happen. Let me show you something else, guys. Next two verses, verses 9 and number 10 shows us this. So we've seen the expressions of the love. Let me show you the examples in life. The example. So we've seen the expression of love from our godly Father. Now we must look at the examples in life from a godly Father. The examples in life, right? A father can't just say what his children should do. He must also do them and show them and give them an example. It's like learning on the job, right? You can go to college and get all the books knowledge you want. You get to the job and you don't even know what you're doing, right? Why? Because you have no life experience, but you're very, very smart. You understand it in theory, but you got to put your action and your brain into action and make it happen. It's the same thing in this life. We've got to give them examples. We've got to show them. What did Jesus say? And he really showed us through Paul in another book. Paul says this in Philippians chapter number 2 in verse number 5. He says, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ. Paul is telling them at Philippi, he's saying, guys, you should do what Jesus did. He mirrored that through every epistle that he wrote. That is important for you and I. We have to live our life. We have to be the example of Jesus. Well, the only way to be the example of Jesus is to know Jesus. I was saved when I was 8, preacher. Me too. But you got to spend the next part of your life from then until present, until he calls you home, learning and growing in that knowledge. Listen, if you got saved, if you never opened the Bible until you're in church, you've missed out. Guys, listen, you can never be the example that Jesus wants you to be if you don't know Jesus, because you have to mirror and imitate him. Jesus was humble, and he gave everything. Think about this, guys. He gave it all for us. What do we give, right? Think about how he humbled himself. And literally, listen, I like my wife's feet, okay, and I'll wash my kids' feet, but I don't want to wash your feet, right? Jesus knelt down and washed his disciples' feet. And them feet were probably nasty, guys. I mean, they walk in the desert with sandals on, okay? It wasn't like they were clean. And he's washing them as a way of humbling himself and showing he was humble. Listen, guys, we have to mirror that and show our servant mindset and serve others. He's saying, listen, guys, it's something you've got to show. It ain't something that you can just do, is what Paul's saying. What did he do? He showed us a couple examples in these verses. For one, in verse number 9, he shows us through his work, okay? He showed us the example of life, of loving in life, through his work. Verse number 9, what does it say? It says, you remember, brothers, our labor and travail, for laboring night and day, because we would not be chargeable unto any of you. We preach unto you the gospel of God. He uses the word labor and travail, and then he uses it labor night and day. He was a worker Old Paul wasn't lazy, guys. Paul worked for everything he's got. Fathers, we should support our family by how we work. We show them how to work by how we work, guys. Listen, I don't sit still. Y'all ever notice I don't really stand still either? You ever notice that? I can't sit still. I can't stand still. If I'm driving down the road, I'm fidgeting, I'm eating something, sunflower seeds, chewing gum. I got to be moving. I don't like to sit still, right? Well, Paul didn't either. If you come by my house on Saturday, I probably ain't going to sit there either. I'm outside. I'm doing something. I can't sit still very long. I get a little bit, I got to do something, right? Paul was a worker. Paul knew how to work. Verse 9, he labored and travailed. You know what that means? In all actuality, when it says he labored, it means he struggled and hard work. He struggled, and listen, we all know about struggle, right? We've all been there before. We've all struggled before. But that's what shaped you to who you are today. See, oftentimes we don't want our kids to face those hardships, so we try to put the protection around them. But in all actuality, you're who you are because of the struggle, and you overcame that. Therefore, it's made you into who you are. If we don't allow that to happen for them, the same thing may not happen for them. They'll be unable to be nothing, right? We're going to help them, protect them, but also let them learn like we learn. It says labor and travail, struggle and hard work. Or it also means toil and hardship. Same concept, right? He's saying, look, what did he do? We knew that he was a tent maker instead of other places in life, okay? He would make tents. He would sell them. That's how he earned his living. But you know what he did? He balanced his work and his life very clearly. You say, how do you know that, preacher? Well, it's all through Scripture. How could he accomplish everything he accomplished for Jesus, start all these churches and preach the gospel, if he was working 90 miles an hour and never had time for family or for Jesus, right? He was able to balance his life. Because if we as fathers are always working and our kids never see us, then that ain't good for the kids, because who are they going to mirror? You ain't there to mirror, so they're going to mirror whoever they want, the world, their friends, whatever lifestyle they want in that generation. So we have to balance it. Paul balanced it. He worked. He showed them work ethic, his spiritual family here in Thessalonians, but he also balanced it. They saw both. What else did he do? He worked. How about his walk? Oh, I love this. Verse number 10. Verse number 10 is a good one. He says this, you are witnesses. This is his walk. And God also. He's saying, you guys, who's he talking to? These folks. You're a witness, and God's a witness, okay? How holy and justly and unblameable we behave ourselves among you that believe. See, fathers must live as an example to their children. Say, preacher, we know that. I believe it. I got to be an example. Listen, guys. He's saying that. What did Paul say? Let's get real for a minute. Come on, let's focus. Let's get real. What does Paul say? Hey, you can ask them. That's what he said, right? Ask them. They're my examples. Go ask them. Or you could ask God. What if we did this, guys? I'm not suggesting us do this, but let's say if we did. Hey, go ask my kids how I am. I'll go get all 4 of my kids, and I'll get the microphone right here. So how's daddy at home? How's daddy when he ain't at church? How's daddy when they, listen, what would they say? Oh, daddy is crazy, right? Daddy is this. What would they say about you? Come on now. Listen, you are an example to your children whether you realize it or not. Are they going to say, well, man, daddy does this at home and he wouldn't do that in public? Listen, I ain't trying to scare you. I ain't trying to call you out. I'm trying to make you think. Because if you think and you realize it, you'll change. I can't change you. I don't have that power. I can only change me. And if I change me, I can change the trajectory of my life. I can change my children, and I can change the trajectory of my family. But my question is you. Could you say, well, you can ask my children or how I am? Because remember, we already identified that we're the most calm at home. Our guard is down by the way we dress in our house clothes, right? We know that that's the truth. He's saying, guys, ask them. They'll tell you how I am. What else is it? He's saying they'll be the first one to say, look what Paul said about look what he said about the spiritual father in verse number 9. He says, he uses like 3 terms. He says, in verse number 10, he says witnesses, then he says the word holy right there. He says the word holy right there. What does that mean? He's talking about himself as a spiritual father. He said, I'm holy. Ask them. They'll tell you. They'll give me a witness. They'll give me an amen on this. I'm holy. What does that mean? It says this. Holy right there means carefully fulfill the duties God gives to a person. He's saying that I am holy. I carefully do the tasks that God told me to do. And they'll agree with it. So my question is are you holy? Dads, fathers. Oh, preacher, come on, this ain't holy perfection. What kind of gospel you preaching? Listen, I know we ain't perfect till we get to heaven, but what the word holy means right there is that we are doing and fulfilling the duties that God called us to do. We as fathers have a huge responsibility, and we've got to fulfill those duties. We've got to. Are you doing it at home? If you're not, who is? Nobody, okay? So what else does he say in verse number 10? Not only are you holy, he says justly right there. That word justly means like righteous, or it means to have integrity. It means to have uprightness. It means to have character. It means to have a good behavior. It means someone that practices practical righteousness. That doesn't mean you're so heavenly minded you're no earthly good. It means that you practice practical righteousness. That means you live above reproach. You live you're not blameless or harmless like Paul talks about in Philippians, guys. You have integrity. You do those things. Paul's saying, I'm doing that. You can ask them. They're my witnesses. You can ask God. He's my witnesses. My question to you is, can you ask that? Can you point to everybody at your house and say, ask them, I'm holy. Ask them, I'm righteous. Ask them, I do it right. Or are you too scared to ask them? Listen, guys, this is a conversation that you and God got to have in your heart right now. Because what do I want more than anything is for you to be successful. I want your kids to be successful adults, and they can be if you are the example that they ought to be imitating. What else does he show? He shows in verse number 10, he says, unblameable. What does that word unblameable mean? It means this: not able to find fault in. That is almost the same exact word in Philippians when he says to be blameless and harmless. Hey, you can't find fault. I'm doing everything right. I may have hardship. I may have toil. I may have struggle, but I'm going to do it the right way. Man, if every dad in America could stand up and say that, crime rate would go down. Everything would be so at ease. But you know what? It starts with you. I can't fix every man in America, but I can fix me. I can fix me, and you can fix you, guys. You can change the pathway of your life. See, if you want your life and your family to have worldliness where that shows emphasis on pleasure and pride and possessions, then don't be an example at home. If you want your family to be godly and placed in high up of Bible and prayer and holiness and church and God, then you should be the example like Paul is right here. He's saying, I'm righteous, I'm holy, and I'm without fault. And he's telling that to them so they go home and they'll also be without fault. Let me show you the last thing, guys. Serious stuff here, guys. The expression of the love, the examples in life. Last thing I'll give you is the encouragement for living. The encouragement for living. See, a father must take time to speak. I can just hear you now. Preacher, we know you always got time to speak, right? Listen, y'all know I can talk. Listen, me and you can take a road trip. We can drive halfway across the U.S. and I'll talk the whole way. I'll be honest with you. I can talk. If you ain't listening, I'll find something to talk about. I'll answer my own questions. I like to talk. So you say, preacher, it probably ain't hard for you to have something to talk about at home. Oh, yeah. Think about this, guys. Let me just give you, I'm not trying to have a pity party. I'm just going to be real with you. Listen, I work. I struggle. I go through things all day, dealing with other people's problems, dealing with my own problems, dealing with everybody else's thing. Go to the hospital, do this, go do that, prepare a message. I got to preach a good one now. Don't misunderstand that. And all this is going in my mind at 6 o'clock. It's time to go home. Go home. And what do I want to do? I want to shut down. I want to sit on my couch and turn the ball game on, or, man, get my grill, go and get my green eggs, make it smelling good out there, guys. And what do I want to do? My kids come up and start talking to me. I'll be there in a minute, guys. Come on now. I'm okay to be real with you. Listen, I'll be open. Why? Because you're my family. I'll be open with you. I can never get right till I get real. I'm being honest. My kid, Daddy's look, I'll do it in a minute, son. My little girl, come, Daddy, will you please put makeup on? I'll in a minute. Listen, I do it, but some days I just get home and I don't want to do it. Why? Because my day's hard. Some days ain't. Listen, if you think preachers only work on Sunday, you raw, baby. Come with me, hang out with me for 2 weeks. And you'll say, man, preacher, I ain't want to do that. Yeah, listen, God called me. That's why I'm doing it. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'd be miserable if I didn't. But hear me out. So I don't want to do it. Take time to speak to your kids. He's showing us right here encouragement for living from a godly father. What does Paul say in verse number 11? He says, don't ever be too busy to have quality time with your kids. What does he say in verse number 11? He says, as you know, we exhort, comfort, and charge every one of you as a father does his children. Every one of you. How many people went to that church? I have no idea, but he made time for all of them. I have no idea who was on the roll at the church of Thessalonica, but based upon the verse I just read, he made time for every one of them, and he's talking about being a spiritual father, which also resonates to being an earthly father. That means I have to take time with all 5 of my children. That means that when I have to somehow figure out how to get home after a stressful day and realize that I can turn a switch and make all my time be on my kids until they go to bed at 8:30, and then I can shut down. Right? I can do that. I got to figure it out. Listen, I'm good some days and some days I ain't, just like you. But I'm okay. I can admit it. And I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I got to do better. I've got to change this about me so that I can make my children be better adults than I ever envisioned for my own self. You can do it too, Dad. I believe in you. Fathers, I believe in you. You can do it. But it's a mindset that you got to start. It doesn't matter if your kid's 8, 18, 38, 58, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. It's not about young kids. It's about your children. What does he say in verse number 11? He says, make time. He points to 3 specific things. Then I'm done, guys. He says, for one, you've got to guide them up. Guide them up. He uses that word, verse number 11. He says, as we know how we exhorted, okay? That word exhorted right there. In verse number 11, he's talking, what it means is to encourage, okay? Now, I don't want to just give you too many words, but the word encourage right there has no S on it, okay? To encourage is what he's saying right there. He's telling them right there, you know we have to, he's talking about every person individually, not as a whole. We have to encourage them. It does not mean that Paul scolded them. It means that he encouraged them to go to the Lord. We've all been scolded before, right? I mean, listen, I can, look, my dog will pee-pee or something in the house, or it pee-pees on my grass. What are you doing, right? And that dog, and she runs away, right? We know how to be scolded. But you know what it does to my dog? It scares them when they run. What do you think it does to the kid? No wonder they don't listen to you, right? But so to the point of the matter is this, right? So we have to think about those things before we do it. It says to exhort, to encourage, not to scold. That's the opposite, right? Sometimes we can understand things better if we see the opposite of it. He's saying that we encourage the person, the child, the kid, the adult kid, whatever it is, not scold them. There's a difference. Then he follows it up with the next word. What's the next word? It says in verse number 11, exhort and conformed. What does that word right there mean? That means to lift them up. So we've seen guide them up, encourage, lift them up. This is what it means, right? Almost the same words. And don't let me lose you now because this is part of the best part, right? You always say the best for last, guys. Come on, the best part. You lift them up. That word, comfort, brother, means to encourage. You encourage them. You consult them. You support them. You sustain them. You hold them up. You lift them up. You ease pains, and you offer relief. What does that mean? That is encouragement in action. See, here's the action of it. The first part is you encourage them in words. The next word is when you encourage them with activity and with action. You know, physically, you've had to be lifted up and encouraged. Same thing with your children, right? This morning, I'll be honest with you, Holland, I can't never say her name. Don't ever name all your kids the same letter. I'm just going to be honest with you. Don't ever do that, okay? Because you'll never can remember the name. I know what I'm trying to say, but they don't know what I'm trying to say because I say the wrong word. But anyways, the baby right now, she was crying about something. I don't know why she's crying. She's crying. And what do I have to do? I'm thinking about my sermon. I lift her up, my arm on her. Baby, it's okay. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Whatever you're saying, it's okay. Don't worry about it, okay? Okay. That's what she says. Stop crying. You're okay. You're tough. You're smart. You're good. Go play. Okay. Put her down. She runs. What happens? You lifted them up. I encouraged her with action. I held her close to me. Let her know how much I love her. That she's okay. She's just pouting. She's whining. I don't know what she's doing. She acting like her mom's out of the family. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just kidding, okay? I'm just trying to wake y'all up. And so I'm holding her, and I lift her up. It's similar to the other word, but it's that word with action. It's that word with activity. Paul not only made them feel better, but here it is. He made them want to feel better. See, I mean, why did God let that happen today? So I have a great illustration. He not only wanted them to feel better, but he wanted to make them want to feel better. See, guys, I can tell you, or I can show you, and you can figure it out for yourself, and it'll last longer. It's like, man, give a man a fish, he'll eat for the day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat forever, right? Same thing here. Listen, if I can tell you how to think, you'll say, okay, amen. But if I show you why you ought to think that way, it'll resonate, and you'll actually do it, okay? So if you lift them up, it's the action of showing them. It connects and it clicks. My kid's 25 and he weighs bigger than me. I can't pick him up. You can in his way. Because the way I do that to her, I can't do that to Hembry. Hembry's different. I got to take her to get her nails done, and she likes it, okay? I'm just kidding. I'm serious, but it's a different kind of love because they have different personalities and different mannerisms and different temperaments. But yet you have to know that as a father, and you do what works for them. Next time you ask yourself this. Ask yourself, are you too busy to listen to your kids? Say, preacher, what does that got to do with lift them up? Because if I would have got home after a stressful Monday, and I would have been at my green egg trying to make me something delicious to eat, right? And all of a sudden that, leave me alone. Go there. Mama's calling. Something, right? What would have happened? What would have happened, guys? I'd have missed the opportunity to lift them up. What I'm trying to tell you is never be too busy for your children. Because if you want them to talk to you now, or excuse me, let me say it better. If you want them to talk to you when you're 16, you might ought to listen to them today, right? Because I want my daughter or my son, or sons with an S, okay? I want them to come to me with no matter how old they are, 16, 18, 25. I never, ever want them to feel like they can't speak to me. So if I'm in the moment of my life and get caught up in my phone and Twitter and everything else, I ain't got time to you. The day that they really need me to listen to them, are they actually going to talk to me? Are they going to say, well, he's too busy on his phone. He ain't going to talk to me. Listen, guys, I don't want your kids to not communicate with you, so you better listen to them today. So you say, preacher, man, I done messed up. My kids don't talk to me no more. Well, hey, tomorrow, don't put off tomorrow what you can accomplish today. Start today. Start today. So that means you can own it, guys. You know the best thing to do in life is to ask for forgiveness when you mess up. I'm talking about, listen, the olive branch, guys, humbleness like Jesus. You can go to your child. It doesn't matter if you got to call them collect, okay? You can say, I am sorry. I wasn't what I ought to have been. I'm going to listen to you from now on. And don't let it just be fluff in words. Let it be action behind it. Listen, God is a God of restoration. God restores the lame, makes them walk again. God heals the blind. God can do things in your life if you allow God to do things. If you already, he ain't going to do that. My daddy ain't going to do that. Listen, well, you done messed up. Be open. Let him, daddy, lift him up. Let me give you the last one. Don't put your Bible up. I'll make you turn it back over, okay? Listen, guide them, lift them. The last one is this. Oh, it's a good one. Push them up. Push them up. Oh, I like this one, Fraser. I'm going to push them when I get home. Listen, sometimes in life, our children need a gentle shove. They do. Like mama, oh, hey, we had these little birdies. Did I give that birdie story? I'm talking about right outside the window right there where you eat in my house. There's a pretty little bush right there. And this bird made a bird's nest, okay? And we watched that thing lay. I mean, she flew out. There's eggs. We watch every day. Every day. And then all of a sudden, Daddy! The egg hatched. Well, praise the Lord. Let's watch it, okay? This little thing ain't got no feathers, and they got their mouth open, and I got to teach them what regurgitate means, and they love that, okay? And look, this bird was feeding the thingy. And the next thing you know, 2-3 days later, that thing's flying. And then it was sitting there, flying. And mama's pushing on it. What's she doing? She's giving the gentle nudge. She's teaching the kid, the little thingy, how to fly. Sometimes in life, we got to give them a gentle push. Listen, it says it right there in our verse. The exhort, conform, the word, and charge every one of them. That charge means to testify, to witness, to protect, to warn, to give them a gentle shove. One of life's experiences in life, one of the greatest experiences in life, is taking what you've learned and telling everybody else. That's the witness that he's speaking about this. That means when we give the gentle shove, sometimes it's through difficult situations. But guys, everything that you've been through in life is for you to help somebody else. You realize that? God allowed you, whether it's a broken home, whether it's negative stuff at house, maybe it's a lost job, maybe it's whatever your situation is, right? God allowed those things to happen for you to share your story with somebody else that's about to go through that. Because you are the best person to tell them. Not me. I haven't done what you've done, but you have, right? So you can tell them these things. So don't, that gentle shove is, hey, my kid, you messed up, tell somebody. Tell your friend, because they might need to hear that you got through it. It is you guys pushing your kids to be the best. Listen, I found this. Let me give you this Bible verse, and then I'm going to tell you this cool story about a coach. In 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 4 says this, who conforms us into all tribulation, that we may be able to conform those who are in trouble with comfort with those ourselves are comfort of God. What's he saying here, guys? You can comfort people that are going through garbage because you've already been through that mess. And you can help them get through. Let me show you about this coach. Now, I hate to use a Dallas Cowboy coach, but I like the Falcons. But nonetheless, I'll use it, okay? Legendary coach. Coached the Dallas Cowboys for some 30 years. Todd Landry. Head coach for almost 30 years. Christian. Strong believer of Jesus, right? Somebody asked him his philosophy of coaching. He said, man, tell me how you were such a successful coach for some 30 years. This is what he said, guys. This is what he said. He said, my job is to make men do what they didn't necessarily want to do so they can achieve what they actually always wanted to achieve. Man, that's a tongue twister, guys. Some guy that can half read, I figured that one out. What does it mean? What does it mean? It means this. He's saying these guys wanted the end result, but they didn't want to do the work to get there, so I pushed them to do the end result, to do the work so the end result will be. It's the same thing in this verse, charge them. Sometimes the gentle nudge, the shove, the push to make our children do and be what they can be, but it takes you as a dad, you as a father, to push them down there. Listen, guys, it takes a father, it takes a dad to accomplish these things. You must lead your children by example. And in order to do this, guys, you got to have Jesus as your Savior. But you know what? Something is even so encouraging. You got to have Jesus. Listen, dads, you are not alone. See, one of the strangest things of life is we feel like we're all alone. We feel like nobody else can understand us. We feel like nobody else can resonate with us. We feel like nobody else can help us in our struggle. Dad, fathers, listen to me. You are not alone. Jesus is our King of Kings and Lord of Lords. He's there to help us. He's there to show us. He's there to guide us. He's there to comfort us. There's other men that will love to put their arm around you and help them. But some men are so crazy, they don't want to talk about their feelings. They're too macho, right? Listen, guys, you're not alone, but you have to be open for hearing it. You can't have a wall up and hear it at the same time. Listen, today's a good day because God has empowered you to be great and successful through Jesus and through the help of others. Let me give you this last thought. The greatest thing a father can do for his child is to be saved and live like it. You can be saved all you want. You don't live like it. Oh, I messed up. Hey, you can fix that. Own it. That means you just showed your child how you handle a mess up. I mess up all the time. But I show my kid, you sorry, you say it, you own it, you move on, right? Listen, the greatest thing you can do as a father or a dad is to be saved first and foremost, but then act like it. Live like it. You mess up, show them how to fix it. Show them how to fix it. Maybe you're in the middle of a mess up. Own it and move on. Or maybe you don't even have kids yet. Live by this. Be saved and live like it. Let's pray. God, I praise you and thank you.